Hey, fellow horror fans. This is Troy Escamilla, the director of Party Night and Mrs. Claus, and you are listening to Anthony T's Horror Show. Enjoy.
Welcome to Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm Anthony T. In this edition, I will be interviewing director Drew Marvick, director of Pool Party Massacre, which is available on VOD via Terror Films and is already out on DVD and Blu-ray. But first, I want to get into what this show was originally going to be. I was originally planning this show to be a CT Horror Fest preview show, but when I did production and everything and listened back to it, I thought to myself that I really thought it didn't come off good. And I really don't want to put a product out when I don't feel happy with it. Because I don't want to bore people to death or make them wonder why is he rambling on and on and on. So I decided to scrap that show, but I will be doing a review of CT Horror Fest in the next edition of Anthony T's Horror Show. So I haven't completely scrapped that, so you will get that, at least the review of CT Horror Fest. I hope to do something for Rock and Shock. I may try to bring a guest just to make at least conversational instead of just me going on and on tirelessly. So, enough of that. We're now moving into what I call episode 3. And in this episode, not only will I be talking to Drew Marvick, I will be going over a little convention news too. I'll have a film recommendation. But first, I want to start off with my horror thought. And it's about the recent release of Death House. As you can hear in the horror thought, I was not happy with the release plans for the film. I hope you enjoy this rant and show that I have for you this time around. Warning: the following commentary doesn't represent the views of Dark Discussions or the Dark Discussions Network. In other words, there are my views only. Welcome to my horror thought. Death House recently got announced for a DVD and VOD release. This film is a film that needs to be checked out. I saw the film last year at ScareCon New England when it had its premiere. This film is action-packed. Kane Hodder is great in this film. And plus, this film really doesn't let go until the final credits. But recently, I kind of got angry in pertains to this film because, for those who don't know, I like to collect Blu-rays. I even have a show on Anthony T Horror Chambers YouTube channel called the Horror Chambers DVD and Blu-ray Collection. And mostly you see Blu-rays on it. So when I heard the announcement that Death House was going to be finally coming to disc, I was not happy that there was no Blu-ray announcement. I don't know what's going on with it, but look at how Death House performed when it was first put on pre-order on Amazon.com. It was like in the top 4. In fact, it was number 4 of the top horror films that are sold at Amazon.com when it was first announced. But still, if this film can get into the top 5 and it's an indie film, why isn't there a Blu-ray release? Seriously. This film definitely needs a Blu-ray release. Hopefully soon there'll be details on a Blu-ray release, or maybe it's an exclusive thing. I don't know. But still, it's very frustrating when I see this film doesn't get a Blu-ray release, but films that Cleopatra Entertainment released, like Devil's Domain and most recently Sunset Society, get Blu-ray releases. And Death House, with an all-star horror cast, including Kane Hodder, Sid Haig, Tony Todd, Dee Wallace, Barbara Crampton, and it just gets a simple DVD release. Really, Cleopatra Entertainment? Death House needs a Blu-ray release. If you can give a Blu-ray release to some of your lesser-known films, why can't you give Death House a Blu-ray release? You know this film had a following when you acquired it, because there was a lot of buzz surrounding this film. It is really a shame that this film hasn't gotten a Blu-ray release announced, because really, this film deserves to be on Blu-ray, not DVD, not VOD, Blu-ray. I like to add it to my Blu-ray collection. Blu-ray is my preferred format, not DVD anymore. Only time I get DVD is when Blu-ray isn't available. Still, it's like, why, Cleopatra Entertainment? Why? You guys really need to rethink your release plan and add a Blu-ray release to go along with a DVD and VOD release of the film, because it'll sell good. Trust me. If it debuted at number 4 on Amazon's top horror films, and this is for a pre-order of an indie film, nonetheless, why aren't we getting a Blu-ray release? This is so mind-boggling, and quite frankly, I feel a little angry about it, because personally, lesser-known films than that have gotten Blu-ray releases. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I hope you guys change your mind, and I hope you guys release this film on Blu-ray. That's all I got for this edition. Welcome back to Anthony T's Horror Show. At this time, I'm talking with director Drew Marvick, whose film Pool Party Massacre recently was released on VOD via Terror Films. I want to welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. The first question is, what made you want to get into...
Oh, man. I think the simple answer is just I loved watching movies and just wished I could make my own movies. I didn't actually think I would be able to, but I mean, as a kid, I loved movies. My parents loved watching movies. It was a thing watching a movie as a family on a regular basis. So we had tons of movies in our house, and it was just something that we did as a family. So I've always been fascinated by movies and how you would make them, and then watching back then the rare times you got to see like the making of the Thriller video or things where you could actually see how movies were made. And I was always fascinated by it. So like most makers, I would make my own movies with my parents, camcorder, horrible little movies with my like friends and neighbors. And I guess that's how it starts.
So Pool Party Massacre is pretty much your first film?
It is. I've been working in film for a long time. I produce commercials. So I've been working in film, like 15 years now. But Pool Party Massacre is the first film that I wrote and directed. I've acted in other movies and been crew on other movies, but this is the first one that people can blame me if they don't like it.
Which was more difficult, making a featured film or producing commercials?
I think making the film was definitely harder, because when we're making the commercial, well, for one, there's money, and money helps a lot. But there's also a set schedule, and it's a short duration. I mean, even the longest commercial I think that I've been on was maybe a week. So, and then if you look at Pool Party Massacre, it took us 6 months to finish shooting that. So I think you have a lot more time for things to go wrong and for people to move and cut their hair and lose weight or gain weight or get a tattoo or whatever. Like, so many things can go wrong.
What were some of your inspirations in you wanting to direct?
Really, most of my inspiration came from just the B horror movies that I grew up watching. I mean, I appreciate and love good movies also. I mean, I don't only watch bad movies, but those were the movies that made me feel like I could do it. I don't watch Jaws or Raiders of the Lost Ark or Star Wars and think I could do that. There's no way. I'd still know that I'll never be able to do that. But I can watch the movies that I grew up watching in high school in the early 90s, like all these 80s slasher films, and I could say, man, I might be able to do that. Like, I might be able to someday make a Slumber Party Massacre 2 or a Sleepaway Camp 3. Like, those are things that I might be able to do. So watching them, like I'm watching Roger Corman movies, I mean, that really was my inspiration.
Now, let's get to your film, Pool Party Massacre. Tell me about the film.
Pool Party Massacre is my love letter to the 80s slasher films I grew up watching. So it's a slasher film that takes place in modern time, and it's about a group of young, high-maintenance, socialite type girls in their early 20s, mid-20s, who are having a very small, intimate pool party, and they're unaware of the fact that there is a killer inside the house who starts picking them off one by one in hopefully creative ways. I let other people be the judge of that. But he starts picking them off one by one, and there's a little bit of a whodunit. You don't know who the killer is until the end.
What was the screenwriting process like for this film? As this film just has some very good humor to go along with the horror.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't think I could write something that didn't have at least a little bit of humor. I don't think I would even be able to, because it's just my personality. But the process was, I mean, it started off with a bang. I mean, I tried to write the script in 1 week because I wanted to start shooting right away. And so I wrote a draft of it in a week and took that out to my producing partner, Brian, and showed him and showed a couple of people and was ready to shoot. And luckily they thought that the script actually was kind of funny and had a little bit of value to it. So they convinced me to spend another month kind of polishing it and messing around with it. So it at least got a little bit better from there. But that's really it. It wasn't a very long process at all. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it the way you're supposed to. I didn't follow any screenplay writing books or techniques that I've read. I just started what they call a vomit draft, and kind of just threw up some ideas onto paper and mixed them all around, and out came Pool Party Massacre.
What was the pre-production process like? As I did not hear anything about this film or knew about it existing until I was around shopping at Diabolic DVD for other films, saw the cover, loved it a lot, to check out the trailer, and it made me want to watch this film.
Awesome. Well, I hope there's other people that find it the same way you did. The pre-production, we're a tiny little production. Originally, there was honestly a point where I was going to try to make the movie for $11. That was my original goal. And luckily I decided to spend a little bit more than that, but not much more. The film still, I think we spent about $6,000 total on the shooting budget. So, and it was a really small crew. It was myself and my producing partner, Brian, who shot them and edited the film, and then our cast. So, throughout the pre-production, it was just the two of us, and then we had some local auditions here in Las Vegas, found some great cast, and started putting it together. But with that small of a cast and crew, and really just one location, two locations if you count the fact that we had to cheat the interior of my house for that house a couple times because I needed to be able to spill blood and I couldn't ruin that house. But most people didn't know. There were friends of mine that didn't even know I was making it at the time until it was done.
Speaking of the house, how did you get that location for that film?
Well, I lucked out because it happens to be my parents' house. So I just had to beg them to shoot a movie there and not tell them what it was and what was going to happen. And they were trusting enough to let me film there. So I don't think they knew it was going to take 6 months. And I don't think they quite knew exactly what was going to happen. But they're awesome and they support me. So yeah, so they were nice enough to let me use it.
Did they eventually find out?
Oh yes, they definitely did. They've seen the movie. They came to the premiere, the Las Vegas premiere, and the movie actually played theatrical here for a week. And so they went to a couple screenings when it was playing in the theaters here. And so yeah, there were a couple moments where they looked over at me and said, "You did that in my house?" So it was kind of funny. But I cleaned it up well since they didn't know until they saw the movie. So that's the important thing. I don't know if they'll let me ever make a movie in their house again, but they haven't disowned me. They're still my parents, so that's good.
Yeah, that is a beautiful location for a film, especially when it's like one area. I've seen films of one area where it would pretty much look awful or just not visually pleasing.
Yeah, it happens when you're going to only shoot in one location. Sometimes if you get stuck in, the director's a one-bedroom apartment with the curtains closed, sometimes it's hard. So I lucked out. I was fortunate enough to have access to this.
Now let's talk about the casting process. The film features a bunch of unknowns with the exception of Leanne Vamp. So what was the casting process like for this film?
Well, we, like I mentioned before, that I produced commercials and I worked in the business for a while here in Las Vegas. So I already knew several local actors who I had worked with and I'd cast in projects before in short films and music videos and commercials. So I had a network to reach out to. And we also just kind of threw out a net in Las Vegas and invited local actresses to come in and audition, and we actually got a lot of talented people that came in, which afforded us to pick the people that we had. But still, most of them, it was their first feature film. Whether the amount of acting experience they had varied a little bit, but it was almost all of their first feature films. And then Leanna Vamp is a friend of mine, luckily, so I just reached out directly to her, and her husband Cameron is actually in the movie. He plays the pool guy in the very beginning that she's talking to. That's her husband in real life. So the two of them, I flew them out, and we shot their scenes on a day when we weren't shooting anything else, and so that was a nice little added bonus to have friends like her and Cameron.
What was the shoot like for Pool Party Massacre, considering all the factors that you had to deal with?
It was a little crazy. One of the things a lot of people can't tell when they're watching the movie, but the shooting schedule was delayed a couple months through because of casting and some other factors. So we didn't start shooting the movie until the day after Thanksgiving, actually. So on Black Friday, we started shooting, which is also when winter starts here in Vegas. So the bulk of the movie was shot in December and January and into February, when temperatures get, below freezing here. So there are a lot of those scenes by the pool where the girls are outside without dialogue and sitting on the couch. It was 30 degrees. So, I mean, they were completely freezing. We would have to rush blankets in between takes, and we had a heater just off camera often. And I mean, it was hilarious that we were shooting a movie that was supposed to take place in the hottest time of summer in Las Vegas, and it was literally free. I mean, there was a time we had to stop shooting because it was supposed to start snowing. There was a snow warning actually for Las Vegas, so we had to come inside and take a break. So I mean, that was probably the biggest problem that we had. But I mean, other than problems with Mother Nature and scheduling, everyone was great to work with, and we had a blast. I mean, I tried to make sure it was fun. I mean, if you're going to ask people to work on your no budget indie film and you're not able to pay them, then I feel like the least you can do is make it fun. So that's what I did.
I also noticed that you're in the film too. What made you want to cast yourself in the film?
It was a couple of reasons. I love acting. I do a lot of acting anyways, and it's something that I enjoy. But other than that, I think the main reason, I think there were two main reasons. One of them being that it just made sense for me. I mean, I would be there every day. I didn't have to worry about my schedule conflicting, because as the director, if we're shooting, I'm there. So that made sense. But I also just wanted to be in it. I mean, for selfish reasons, I wanted to be in it, and I thought that I just kind of fit the character that I ended up playing.
What were some of the most difficult scenes that you had to shoot, and why?
They were, I mean, difficult for different reasons. I mean, there were scenes like the Clay's death scene in the bathroom. Like, scenes like that were difficult technically just because we were really in that tiny little bathroom. Weren't able to build a set with movable walls or anything, so we had to fit the actor on the toilet and the camera in front of him into this tiny little bathroom, and try to make sure that we could, get it lit at least semi-appealing and still get the blood gag in. So there were things that were difficult technically like that, and then there were also scenes that were difficult, like when Alexis Adams' character is tied to the bed and we're cutting off her head because we couldn't, in the script there was blood spraying everywhere. I mean, the way that I wrote it, there was supposed to be blood. The whole house would be dripping with blood, like the elevators in The Shining by the end. I mean, just coated. But in reality, I couldn't do that because I couldn't afford to repair everything in that house. So I had to be very, very careful and only use tiny inserts and try not to ruin anything. So that was probably the most difficult and most stressful thing, was just not ruining anything at all in that house. And I think I pretty much achieved it. There's still a stain underneath a nightstand in that bedroom that I don't know if my parents know about yet, where some blood ran down the back of the nightstand, and I didn't find it for months later. Actually, my son found it when he had a sleepover at their house and pointed it out to me. So I'm not sure if my parents know about that one yet.
What was your favorite scene to shoot?
Man, I would love to say it was everything at the end of the movie, because that's the most fun to watch, but that actually wasn't fun to shoot because we were running out of time and it was super rushed and super stressful, and it was supposed to be by far the most fun. I think the most fun that we had on set would have been any time that Nick Byer, who played Clay, was doing any of his lines. Like when he's talking to the girls and putting suntan lotion on himself, and like all of those things were probably the most fun just because he's hilarious. I mean, he's very similar to that character in real life. So and once he's in character, like he was pretty on. So he was keeping us all very entertained.
If there was one thing that you would go back and change in the final product, what would it be?
Oh, man. The only reason why that's a hard question is because I would change like 1,000 things. So to pick one would be hard. I mean, if I could go back into post-production, I would definitely change the pace of the film. I mean, there's a lull in the middle that I tried to fix, and if people could see the original cut, they would be shocked at how much I did cut and how much I did fix, but it still has that lull in the middle. So I'd probably fix that, or shoot anything, just to pick up the pace in the middle, a dream sequence or whatever, a musical number, anything. So that's probably what I would do.
Will there be a Pool Party Massacre 2?
There definitely will be a Pool Party Massacre 2. I've already started writing it. I have pretty much the whole story outlined. I just need to put the finishing touches on the script and then start casting and pre-production. But for sure, I really had no intention of doing it when I made the first one, despite the fact that it ends with a open-ended. But I really just did that because all 80s slasher movies ended that way, and I thought I had to for it to be a proper homage. But now at this point, there's actually some people that like the movie, and people have asked me to make a sequel, and now I actually kind of want to.
I don't know if you can answer this next question, but will it continue from the first film, or will it be completely something different?
I can't answer that because I've been writing it, and it continues 100% from the first one. The way that the script is now, it actually continues from the second the first one ends, like with the killer standing in the same spot and everything. I mean, it just picks up right where the first one ended.
Now, right before your VOD release, what made you decide to self-distribute this film on DVD and Blu-ray compared to selling it off to distributor and handling it and letting them pretty much handle it?
I always, even from the beginning, from before we even started shooting, I knew I wanted to self-distribute the film because I wanted to learn everything I could about distribution. I have a lot of filmmaker friends, even before I made this, and now a ton more since, that I've met through the festival circuit and through conventions, and all of them have a horror story about distribution. And I had already heard so many that I just really wanted to learn everything that I could, even if it was a mistake, even if in hindsight I thought, oh man, I should have let somebody handle it, but at least I learned as much as I could. So that was my idea going into it. So from the very beginning, as soon as we started getting press, and as soon as we had revealed the art, the DVD and poster art by Mark Schoenbach, we started to get a ton of press because he did such a great job, and that the poster art is amazing. So instantly we had press, and people started sharing it on Instagram, and I started getting emails from people wanting to distribute the film before it was even done, just based on the art. And I just immediately answered no to everyone because I knew I wanted to self-distribute. And I did. I actually even I did a digital release for a short period of time myself as well. I had it on iTunes and Amazon, and it was just too much for me to manage everything because it's really just me. I'm the one managing the website and the social medias and answering most of the email. I mean, it's just pretty much me. So I finally decided to sell the digital rights to someone, and Terra Films had been great. And I talked to them several times, and had been great with some of my other friends' movies. And so I took everything off digitally and got the rights to them, and they just relaunched it. And I think it's doing well. But I love having the physical. I want to keep that. Even I think I'll do the same with Pool Party Massacre too, because I love the ability to talk to. I mean, I handwrite things in every order, and I love going to conventions and meeting people and handing them the movie when they purchase it from me, and shaking their hand and taking their picture and thanking them. So that's something that I always will want to do. And since I can't do that with a digital release anyways, I figured why not let Terra Films do what they do.
Yeah, they usually do a good job, because I know they release some good titles such as Red Eye and The Bond.
Exactly, yeah, they have both of those, and I know those filmmakers as well. And so far, and The Night of Something Strange as well for Jonathan Straton, and that was going well. And they even have, movies like Hell House LLC, which was great. That was even earlier on in their catalog. So yeah, they do good things, and so I don't have anything bad to say about them. So I'm happy.
Night of Something Strange is a very crazy film. I love it. I remember seeing it at ScareCon New England, I believe, a couple years ago, right before its Blu-ray release. That film is so crazy.
It's totally bonkers, and I don't know. I love it. I know it's just like all of the movies probably that you mentioned, or anything in the horror genre. Some people are going to love it and some people are going to hate it, and I know that Night of Something Strange is definitely polarizing too. But I love it, and I'll never forget the first time I showed it to my wife, because I had seen it at film festivals, because we played festivals around the same time. And then when it came out on Blu-ray, I showed it to my wife, and I had never thought about it, but she started, when it was over, pointing out all the similarities between Pool Party and Night of Something Strange. I mean, they're totally different movies, but they have a similar sense of humor, and they each have a comedic character who actually is masturbating at some point in the movie, and there's a lot of things like that she suddenly was like, wait, did you and this guy go to high school together or something? I'm like, oh no, I've never even met him. So it was kind of funny to see that there's other people, like-minded people out there making similar movies.
Yeah, that is definitely a film you should check out if you're not offended with all the gore and content that film has.
Yeah, definitely disclaimers of aplenty. If Pool Party Massacre is one thing, but Night of Something Strange pushes.
Yeah, that's a different level.
Yeah, they take it to the next level.
Now, besides this, you've also carved out a neat merchandising for the film. Besides the traditional Blu-ray, DVD, T-shirt, and hat, you have an array of stuff like koozies, a lunchbox, and recently a sold-out action figure. What made you want to expand into merchandising for this film beyond the normal things that you would see being merchandised for a regular film?
Well, I'm a collector myself, so I collect horror toys and posters and Blu-rays and everything I can get my hands on for the movies that I love. So a lot of it was just for that reason. I mean, for like selfish reasons that I wanted them. Here's a movie that I made. I don't know if I'll ever get to make another movie, so I'm going to treat it like it's Star Wars, even though it's not even remotely as far as quality of a movie goes, but that's okay. It's my Star Wars. It's the best movie I've ever made, so I'm going to treat it like that. So I thought, I want an action figure. I want a poster. I want a lunchbox. And so So I started diving into those things, and then it also, from there, it became something that a way that I could get it in front of people. I mean, the art was doing a good job on its own, but the idea that a movie like this, I mean, a $6,000 slasher movie that's, in all reality, not even, it's not a great movie by any means, but that someone would take a movie like that and make an action figure or in a lunchbox and all of this, all of these things, was fascinating to me, and I found it funny. I mean, every time I make something new, it's like me sitting in my office, like maniacally laughing that I have the nerve to make yet another thing for this silly movie that I made.
Also on that Pool Party Massacre store site, you sell these unique hats that aren't related to the film, like I Love Indie Horror and I Love 80s Horror hats in different variations. What made you want to expand your horizons beyond your film and sell these hats?
So the hats actually started with my a side project of mine, Defend Horror, and so I've had Defend Horror for a couple of years now, and it was kind of just an outlet for me to continue to support indie horror. Really, I mean, I have a tendency to contribute to every indie horror Kickstarter or Indiegogo that I can find, because that's just where my passion is, and I want everything to get made. I want everyone to be able to make, the projects that they want to make, whatever they are, but especially if it's indie horror related. But I also don't have a lot of money, so it's hard for me to do that. So I started selling these shirts and hats just as a way to raise a little bit of extra money, and then I would put all the money back into other people's Kickstarters and Indiegogos, and that's how Defend Horror was born, as this kind of almost a charity. I hate to use that word, but I would joke that it's like Robin Hood. I'm giving back. So that's where it came from. And then with Pool Party Massacre was just getting so much more attention than Defend Horror that I started moving some of their products, taking some of the Defend Horror hats and shirts with me to conventions, and people loved them. So I now just offer them on both, and I think I'm in the process of kind of combining everything actually into one main site.
Will we ever see t-shirts of I Love Indie Horror and I Love 80s Horror?
Yes, for sure. I've had a lot of people, especially at Horror Hound in Indianapolis this last couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were asking for those, and I've been meaning to make them. I've just been so busy that I haven't had a chance, but I had enough people give me crap for not having them that I'm definitely going to have to introduce a full line of shirts as well. So those will be on the site soon.
Yeah, I would love to have an I Love Indie Horror shirt to go along with my I Love Indie Horror hat.
Well, I'll make sure that happens.
Because I think that would probably be cool to wear for most of the videos I do on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, totally.
Now, speaking of Defend Tower, how did that get started?
It was, like I was saying, it was like kind of just born from me spending all of my extra money contributing to other people's projects. It's really where it came from. And then the first thing that we had was I Heart 80s Horror hat. I made one of those hats to wear. That a character that I played wore that hat in a short film called Scared to Death years ago that I wrote and directed and submitted to Rue Morgue and Horror Block, back when Horror Block was a thing, had a short film contest, and I wrote and directed a little short film and submitted it to that, and actually won third place in the contest. And my character in that short was wearing that hat, and I made two of them, one that got very bloody on the set and the other that I just continued to wear every day after that. And people kept asking me, where did you get the hat? Where can I buy that hat? so finally I just decided to start making them. And then from there came up with the idea of Defend Horror and the Defend Horror logo with the chainsaw and the Pay for Your Movies subtitle. And then it just kind of went from there. And it seems to be something that everyone appreciates, at least. I mean, people in the indie horror world understand how not paying for your movies affects the indie horror business, and they want to support it. And everyone seems to be really real indie horror fans are very supportive, and are like a family. Like we're all like a big giant dysfunctional family. So everybody gets it. So it was just kind of born from that.
Yeah, because I continuously see people hearing about their films getting pirated and everything, and that's not the way to support your filmmakers, because if you do that, then they're not going to be making films for very much longer.
Exactly. I mean, it really does. Look, I mean, I understand that you can't, buy every movie that you want to see necessarily, and everybody has a limited funds. But it definitely, if there's something that you love, and a filmmaker you love, or a franchise you love, or a movie that you want to support, I mean, that's the best way to support it, even if it's just $1, even if it's watching it on like Tubi TV, which Pool Party Massacre is on now. It's completely free, but it's commercial based, so there's still ad revenue, and it's still a legal and an acceptable way to watch it, but it costs absolutely nothing to anyone else. You just have to put up with a couple commercials. So things like that can help support the industry and can support the filmmaker so they can make another one, because certainly no one, at least in my circle of filmmaker friends, none of us are making a living from our movies. I mean, every dollar that comes in from Pool Party Massacre, it just goes right back into me making crazy merch and heading off to another convention.
Now, are you going to be at any other conventions this year? You just mentioned a bit that you were recently at Horror Hound.
Yeah, I don't have any. Horror Hound might be the end for about a year until Pool Party Massacre 2 is done. And I have another project. Also, I have a couple things in the works. So, I mean, I might try to squeeze one more festival in the next couple months if I can. If I don't have it planned yet, so I'm not even sure where it would be. But I feel like I should take a little bit of a break until I have something new, and also so that I can focus on making something new. It's so hard working, running this multiple sites and social medias and traveling. It's hard to sit down and make a movie, and that's really what I want to do, is make movies. So I think I need to take a little break, make a movie, and then hit the convention scene hard and actually get to the East Coast, and get to your area and Monster Mania, New Jersey, and try to get to everywhere in the country.
What are your upcoming projects besides Pool Party Massacre 2?
I have a Christmas horror anthology that I'm producing. I'm producing the whole thing, and I'm also directing a segment and the wraparound for it. That's in the works. There's 12 filmmakers in total, so it's kind of a big endeavor for me to kind of help put all the pieces together and wrangle all that. But that's going really well. It's probably 75% finished right now, so I'm excited, hopefully, to have it done. Definitely not for this Christmas coming up, but we should be done shooting by this Christmas and then go into post-production and have a finished film for Christmas of 2019. So that's one thing. I have a bunch of other projects that I acted in and helped out on, like Kill Dolly Deadly 2, Axmas 2, Meat Hook Massacre 4. I just shot a scene for yesterday. So I mean, there's a lot of other people's indie projects that I'm fortunate enough to work on, and then I hopefully just in the process of locking in a couple necessary pieces for another indie horror feature that I'm going to hopefully direct and shoot in Florida this December.
Where can they buy your merch?
Everything Pool Party Massacre related can be found at poolpartymassacre.com. Tons of stuff.
What about the Defend Horror stuff?
Oh, yes. And the Defend Horror stuff is at defendhorror.com. Easy enough. And then there's even some of the Defend Horror stuff is on poolpartymassacre.com. And like I was saying, I think soon, hopefully very soon, it'll all be in one mega store under probably my company, Floating Eye of Death, or Floating Eye Films. I'll somehow get everything together, the Defend Horror and the Pool Party Massacre, and then set it up for all the other future projects to all be available in one spot.
Where can they find you on social media?
Well, I personally am on every social media under just my name, Drew Marvick. Luckily, since it's not a very common name, I'm just literally at Drew Marvick on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And then Pool Party Massacre also has its own social media as well, and it's at Pool Party Massacre on everything but Twitter. I think is at Pool Massacre because Pool Party Massacre was too long. But yeah, please find us. I try to keep it entertaining on all my personal ones, and same with on the Pool Party Massacre one. So,
well, thank you very much for joining me, Drew. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was awesome. I'm glad that you reached out to me.
No problem. Anytime. I want to thank Drew Marvick again for the interview. And now here's some convention news and my film recommendation for this episode. Welcome back. Since we have a little extra time, I'm going to talk about a little convention news, as I'll be not only going to CT Horror Fest this year, but also Rock and Shock for 3 days, and Rhode Island Comic Con, which usually has some good horror guests. And this year looks like it's going to be the same. First, let's talk about Rock and Shock. They recently started announcing guests for that show that's going to take place October 12th through the 14th in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I have to say, this lineup is looking better than last year. Because last year it felt like it was just Tom Savini, Adam Green, and that was about it. But this year it really does feel like they're putting more of an effort into bringing a decent lineup. And that they've already announced a couple of headliners for that convention. First off, Malcolm McDowell. He was at the 2016 Rock and Shock. But still, Malcolm McDowell is at your convention. So I can't wait to meet him because I haven't had time in the other two conventions that I've been to that he was at. I just never had the time to meet him. I'm hoping this will change. Another person I'm excited about that's also headlining is Ted Raimi. I believe this might be his first time at Rock and Shock, but don't quote me on that. He's been in films such as Army of Darkness, Candyman, Wishmaster, and he's also was on the second season of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Can't wait to meet him. Another guest I'm very excited to meet is Galen Ross from the original Dawn of the Dead and Creep Show. I can't wait to meet her. I've been wanting to meet someone from Dawn of the Dead, the original, and I'm happy they finally got somebody from that film, because after all, it's the 40th anniversary of that film, and it's kind of nice that at least they got somebody major from that film instead of like Zombie 5 or Tom Savini again. And they've also announced a bunch of other guests, which I'm not going to get into, because I will be doing a Rock and Shock preview show soon. Probably not next episode, but the episode after I will do a Rock and Shock preview show. Next up is Rhode Island Comic Con that takes place November 2nd through the 4th at the Rhode Island Convention Center and Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. This is a convention that I usually refer to as the big one, as it's a very big convention. There's a lot of horror-related guests that are going to be there, even though it's a Comic-Con, which is good. Some of the major guests you can also consider horror is first the headliner of Rhode Island Comic Con, Tim Curry. He was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show in it, as those two are his most notable films. Then you also got Danny Trejo from Predators and the Machete films. You know, that's not horror. It kind of has like a grindhouse feel to it. Next, you had Michael Rooker from The Walking Dead. You also have Ron Perlman for Hellboy. And just recently, they announced Lance Henriksen. Yes, the Lance Henriksen. Excuse me. From Aliens and Terminator. There's a lot of guests here. I may or may not do a preview show for Rhode Island Comic Con. It depends on everything, as there's a couple other things I'm working on. So you may not get a preview show for that, but I know they usually bring a lot of Walking Dead guests, and there's going to be a good amount of them this year, as they're bringing in people like Lenny James, Sarah Wayne Callis, to name a few. It's going to be a good time. And that's pretty much it with the convention news right now. Hopefully I may talk about this a little more as time gets near these conventions. It depends on what's going on here at the show, so stay tuned. And now let's move on to my film recommendation. For my film recommendation this episode, I'm going to recommend the 2013 film Babysitter Massacre. What makes Babysitter Massacre good was the fact that writer-director Harike Kudo does a very good job making sure that this film has a very dark tone throughout, as it doesn't get silly or goes off course. He makes sure he does that by making sure the story is the focus of the film. There's also a couple good kill scenes in the film that slasher fans will like. He also does a great job with the way he directs his cast, as the characters were engaging. It made the film keep my interest, and I'm proud to at least have this film in my collection. Speaking of the performances, the other thing that I liked about the film was the performances. I like how Kudo makes sure he gets the performances that he needs, as it didn't take away from the film, as most movies like this tend to. But here, I thought it helped the film, as it had very good lead performances from Aaron Ryan and Mary Lee Osborne. Babysitter Massacre is definitely a slasher film that you should check out. It was recently re-released on Blu-ray a couple months ago by Camp Motion Pictures in a Blu-ray DVD combo pack. You can find that on Amazon. You can find it also on Alternative Cinema's official website, as Babysitter Massacre is a film that will leave you in shock. What's happening in Anthony T's Horror Chamber? Well, not much. Haven't had time to update the site recently as I've been pretty much busy trying to get this episode done as it's taken a lot of my time. I hope to have something new on my YouTube channel soon, as I'm going to finish post-production on the Horror Chambers DVD and Blu-ray Collection Episode 3. In fact, that might already be up there. If not, it will definitely be up there by the time the next episode drops. And I'll also have another horror review up on my YouTube channel. I will definitely have it up by next episode, as I will eventually get to Pie Wacket, as I've not had time for pretty much anything, as this episode has pretty much been taking up my time, as I had to redo the whole episode pretty much. That, and it's been very hot in the East Coast, so I haven't had time for much, but hopefully I will have some new material coming up on the YouTube channel right before the next episode. I've also started an email account, so if you have any complaints, any mail, feel free to drop an email at anthonytshorrorshow@gmail.com. Remember, you can like Anthony T's Horror Show on Facebook at facebook.com/Anthony T's Horror Show. You can also follow Anthony T's Horror Chamber on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Just type in Anthony T's Horror Chamber. It'll also be in the description in the YouTube version of the show as well. So I hope you check these sites out. Feel free to like them. And I hope to have some more exciting guests in the future. Until then, thank you for listening to the show. Have a good day and support indie horror.